You know, when you think about how a war of independence starts, there's usually a spark, a protest, a big speech. But for Bangladesh back in 1971, that spark was something else entirely. It was a military revolt. Today, we're going to talk about the incredible story of one single army unit, the 8th East Bengal Regiment, and how their act of defiance on one single night lit the fire for a whole nation's freedom. It really all comes down to these two words: we revolt. Just think about that. This wasn't just some angry shout. This was a declaration that literally changed the course of history. On the night of March 25, 1971, these words from the regiment's second-in-command, Major Ziaur Rahman, kicked off a chain of events that would end with the birth of Bangladesh. And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds almost unbelievable. How can just one unit, a few hundred soldiers, actually ignite a full-blown war for independence? Well, the answer is all right here, in the story of the 8th East Bengal. All right, so to really get this, we've got to jump back in time to that one fateful night in the port city of Chittagong. This is where that spark of rebellion was truly lit. Okay, so picture this. The Pakistan Army is launching its brutal crackdown, Operation Searchlight, in the capital, Dhaka. At the same time, miles away in Chittagong, the 8th East Bengal gets a very suspicious order: move your troops to the port. The Bengali officers knew right away this wasn't some routine deployment. It was a trap, a clear move to disarm them before they could ever fight back. And their response? Man, it was incredibly fast and decisive. In the total chaos of that one night, Major Zia hears about the massacres in Dhaka and makes a decision that changes everything. His troops moved immediately, neutralizing their West Pakistani officers. Then they seized the armory, and this was absolutely crucial. Because think about it, without weapons, a revolt is just a protest. With them, well, now you've got the beginning of an army. By dawn, they'd broken free and slipped into the hills to regroup. But to really understand why they revolted, we need to know who these soldiers were. What was it about this particular unit that made them the perfect fuel for the fire of revolution? Well, their identity was really the key factor. The 8th East Bengal was a pretty new unit, but the critical thing is that it was made up almost entirely of Bengalis. This gave them this incredible sense of shared culture and a growing feeling of nationalism. Being stationed in Chittagong, they had deep roots with the local people, and get this, their regimental symbol was the Bengal tiger. You can't get a more powerful emblem of their identity than that. And this right here, this just lays out the conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the regiment itself, Bengali, nationalist and tied to the local population. On the other side, you've got the high command, West Pakistani, who deeply distrusted their Bengali soldiers and were ready to crush any kind of dissent. This wasn't just a military unit, it was a powder keg just waiting for a spark. But, you know, a single act of revolt is one thing. Building an actual army, that's a whole different ballgame. And this is where the story of the 8th East Bengal goes from just a rebellion to the start of a full-blown revolution. So why does this matter so much? Because when the war kicked off, the Mukti Bahini, the freedom fighters, were mostly civilian volunteers. Yeah, they had incredible passion and courage, but they didn't have military training. The defection of the 8th East Bengal gave the independence movement something it desperately needed: an instant professional backbone. They were the steel core that the rest of the resistance could build itself around. And they didn't just hide out in the hills. No way. They evolved. They started launching guerrilla raids. They began training civilian recruits, which made their numbers swell. This one unit very quickly became the heart of Sector 1, a major front in the war. And later, they formed the core of Z-Force, the very first brigade of the new Bangladesh forces. And on top of all their military achievements, they played a huge symbolic role. It was the soldiers of the 8th East Bengal who secured the Kalurkat radio station. That allowed the very first Declaration of Independence to be broadcast for the whole world to hear. They didn't just fight for the new nation, they literally helped announce its birth. So after all that, what's the lasting impact of what this one regiment did? What are the embers that still glow from that fire they started? For everything they did, the 8th East Bengal Regiment earned a nickname, a very prestigious one: the Pioneers. And it is absolutely perfect. They were the vanguard, the very first organized professional military unit to raise the flag of rebellion. They set the standard for everyone who followed. If you remember one thing from all of this, make it this number: 1. They were the first. Their revolt proved it could be done. And that created a domino effect, inspiring Bengali soldiers and other regiments all across the country to rise up and join the Liberation War. And their story isn't just some relic of the past. Today, the 8th East Bengal is an active duty battalion in the Bangladesh Army. They continue to serve, both at home and on UN peacekeeping missions abroad, always carrying with them the incredible legacy of being the unit that chose its nation over its uniform. These phrases from historical accounts just say it all, don't they? They weren't just a part of the war, they were the seed unit, the very beginning from which a whole new army grew. They were the steel core that gave the resistance its strength right from day one. And this all brings us to one final, really powerful question. The story of the pioneers forces us to ask, when does a soldier's highest duty shift from their uniform to their nation? For the men of the 8th East Bengal Regiment, the answer to that question came on a dark night in March of 1971. And their choice forged a country.